I don't know how to open this. Been playing Shadow of the Erdtree. It's great. Goated. 10 out of 10 best content I've touched in a hot minute. Probably just edges out the old hunters for me, but it doesn't quite goon it. I realise in retrospect that I've accidentally done the TikTok gnome meme where I'm just going into other people's places of work and terrorising. I've specced into 26 faith here. Perks of being 167. This is the first thing I want to talk about. It's okay to dip into a non-damaging skill to unlock something new for you. People tend to hate on sorceries with faith requirements, or incantations with intelligence requirements. This is also me, I totally get it, but the Vortex of Putrescence does something that no other sorcery does for me. It gives me this weird inwards area denial tool, so if I see someone coming up onto me in melee, I can do this ahead of time, and it seems to give me a massive advantage. In these clips you can see it paying out. My only criticism is the 2 spell slot usage. Seems a bit much, but it has saved my ass a few times, so I'll willingly take it. 26 Faith still allows me to pump in, and it lets me use my nice intelligence catalyst, so carry in Regal or lose that staff without having to overcommit into Int Faith to use Prince of the Death Staff. I think that's what it's called, yeah. But I think this is actually pretty efficient, and it allows me to cover all of the sorceries and still maximize my damage. I don't quite get the dooming about this sort of thing. Strength weapons have always needed some dex just to be heavy infused, and dex weapons have always needed a little bit of strength even though they just get keen infused. It's the same thing. I know Gunch's Boats has talked about this a little bit as well within the martial context because he peppers int or arcane and faith on top of strength a lot. But the main thing I want to talk about, just over the top of all this stuff going on, is the build discussion that I feel like has popped up a lot with Elden Ring. Basically comparing it how it's not like the gold days of Dark Souls 3, where you can have blue claymore build or yellow claymore build. And the things that tend to come up are the following. So death sorcery scales with int and faith, whereas death weapons are generally cold dex weapons. Lightning incantations are faith, whereas their weapons are dexterity. Gravity sorcery is intelligence, whereas their weapons are strength. And now with the DLC, we've got like the Flower Stones Gavel, where it's Ash's lightning, but at arcane scales. But I'm a big simp, so I'm going to defend this choice, and why I prefer it to Dark Souls 3 by an absolute mile. I've been referring to it as asymmetrical build designing because I don't have a better way of saying it. And kind of what I mean by this is I think Elden Ring excels as having different archetypes of builds, such as strength or dex, able to access different themes or styles. And so for build identity it means that you can have a bunch of different themings for the same kind of very rough stat allocation. So if you take a dex base, you can either make it pure dex with keen infusion, you can make it lightning dex, which carries its own advantages and also it has its own soft capping system. And now we have kind of ghost flame dex or like cold dex, and it allows the player to fulfill the same sort of death theme but come at it from a martial context as opposed to a casting context. The thing that I think takes away from the originality by making it all scale on the same stat is you end up with a Ghost Flame build, or in the case of Dark Souls 3, a Lightning build, a Fire build, a Dark build, a Magic build. And so I think generally the way that Elden Ring presents it is better. I don't have anything else to say. I just kind of wanted to blast through that and shout this into the abyss. This is mostly just for if the conversation comes up again, I can just remind myself what I've said about it in the past. Ka kite.